Another 7-star raid event has come, this time 7-star Flying Tera Blaziken. So as always, let's talk about it. First and foremost, let's go into Blaziken's moveset, because there's a little bit there to go over. In terms of its major attacks, it is of course coming with Blaze Kick, Blaziken's signature attack and a very strong Fire Stab move. To go with the Flying Tera, it also comes with Brave Bird, doing a little bit of recoil damage to itself with every hit, but still hitting like an absolute truck. For a Fighting Stab move, I was expecting it to come with Close Combat, but instead it has Low Kick, which is going to do a little less damage for the most part, but if your Pokemon's of a heavier size class, in which case it's going to do just as much damage as Close Combat would have, but with none of the downsides. As a final major attack, it's also coming with Earthquake, which means this 7-star raid boss is actually covering every single one of its weaknesses. Which you really wouldn't think would be that strange, but it's really weird how many of them have left at least one type uncovered. On the more scripted end of its moveset, it's also coming with Overheat, which isn't exactly the first attack you think of when you think Blaziken, but hey, it only does it once. And speaking of something it only hits you with once, Rock Slide. I'm not really sure why they decided to put that move in its moveset just to have it use it only once, but hey, here we are. And because no challenging 7-star raid boss is ever complete without something to boost its own stats, it comes with both Swords Dance and Bulk Up. So it's going to be raising its own attack power, and occasionally its defense. Now before we get into raid strategy, let's talk about the scripted events. Blaziken's shield goes up when it has about 80% remaining HP, or 80% of the timers left. Which means if you want to use some utility moves, you better sneak them in quick. Because usually you're only going to get 2 or 3 in before the shield gets put up. And speaking of things that are going to happen really quickly into the raid, Blaziken is going to reset your stats at about 90% remaining HP. So if you're running an offensive build that relies on boosting your own stats, I very much recommend you wait until after it does that. On top of that, Blaziken's automatically going to use Swords Dance when it's got about 90% of the timer left, so that's going to happen very soon, and you're going to have to worry about the boosted damage almost immediately. Just after the shield goes up, Blaziken will also use Overheat. It only does it once and thereby lowers its special attack stat, which it doesn't even use aside from that one move anyway. When you're getting down to the end of the shield at about 70% remaining HP, Blaziken's going to reset its own stats, so make sure you reset any debuffs you have on it the minute the shield goes down. And at about 60% timer remaining, it's also going to use Bulk Up, so it's going to boost its attack even higher. Now these 2 scripted events that I've mentioned are not the only time it's going to use Swords Dance or Bulk Up, but in my experience it really doesn't use them much aside from that. As one final scripted event, when it's down to about half of its remaining HP, it will then use Rock Slide. But honestly, by that point, you're probably very set up and very ready to finish the raid at any point, so it really doesn't matter. Alright, now let's talk strategy. Now obviously with Blaziken's moveset, it's very hard to bring something that's super effective against it, as flying types are only really weak to 3 things: Ice, Rock, and Electric moves. But looking at its moveset, both Blaze Kick and Overheat are super effective against Ice types, Earthquake is super effective against Electric types, and Low Kick is super effective against Rock types. Rock types also tend to be heavier, so Low Kick is going to be doing the high end of its damage scale also. So when coming up with an offensive Pokemon to bring to this raid, you really need to worry about the secondary typing. Because as long as the secondary type is resistant to what the first one is weak to, you should be pretty good. The other big concern with Blaziken is its ability Speed Boost, which means for every single turn that the raid continues, Blaziken is just getting faster. So unless you're using priority moves, or something like Trick Room to reverse the turn order, you can pretty well rely on Blaziken being the first thing to move. On top of that, its attack power gets very high very quickly, so something that can lower its attack power is also very good to have. Though on a secondary note, something like Will-O-Wisp isn't really going to help you much here, because it resets its status condition about the same time the shield goes up, and thereby unburns itself the minute you stop being able to use utility moves on it. But aside from all that, this raid is pretty straightforward. Blaziken moves fast, it hits hard, it's going to boost its attack power sparingly, so as long as you can negate some damage or lower its attack, and then hit it back with some super effective moves, the raid's pretty straightforward to do. And now, as per usual, what I know everybody's been waiting for, my builds for taking on the 7-star Flying Tera Blaziken. First and foremost, as an offensive build, probably the most used Pokemon in all of Tera raids, Iron Hands. This is almost a pretty bog standard Iron Hands build, except for the addition of Iron Defense and Focus Energy. The intent of Iron Defense is for Iron Hands to be able to boost its own defense a little bit so it can survive a couple Earthquakes, and Focus Energy to boost its crit rate so its hits can hit a little harder. Drop a couple Thunder Punches early on before it drops your stats, and then Belly Drum when safe too. Now this build does require a support Pokemon helping it from the sidelines and healing, or else it's not going to survive very long. But on a team with the right support, this build can do a lot of damage and survive some hits. Next up on the support side of things, we have Grimmsnarl. This is a slightly different Grimmsnarl build from usual. As per usual, it's rocking Reflect with the Prankster ability to make sure that goes first, so your entire team can benefit from taking half damage from Blaziken's moves. Immediately after setting up the screen, drop a couple fake tears on it to lower its special defense and help all your special attacking teammates. And once the shield goes up, start spamming Chilling Water. Make sure you're paying attention to how many turns have gone by so you can reset the Reflect once it goes down. And bonus points if you can time this properly. If you use Burning Jealousy the same turn Blaziken's boosting its stats with Bulk Up or Sword Stance, then this move has a 100% chance to burn the target, lowering Blaziken's attack power even further. This Grimmsnarl build is great for lowering Blaziken's damage output and helping out your team. Looking for a decent support Pokemon for the Blaziken raid that can also heal your teammates? Try Cresselia. Cresselia is incredibly tanky by default and isn't weak against any of Blaziken's moves. In fact, not only is it resistant to Low Kick, it's also immune to Earthquake because of its Levitate ability. With Reflect to half the incoming damage and Lunar Blessing to heal you and your teammates. You can also use Helping Hand to boost the damage on your offensive teammates' attacks. I also put Safeguard on this build just in case being burned became a problem in this raid, but honestly when playing with my group it never really came up, so you can probably do without that. Maybe swap it for Skill Swap, and then use it to switch your Levitate ability over to a teammate that's getting destroyed by Earthquakes. For my second offensive build of the raid, Rotom-Wash. Speaking of the Levitate ability, Rotom-Wash is a great Pokemon in this scenario because it's an electric type that can't be hit by ground moves, thus giving it the ability to be super effective against Blaziken without taking super effective damage itself. That being said, a +2 attack power Brave Bird still hits like a truck, so it's nice to be on a team with a support Pokemon that can mitigate some incoming damage. For some early game damage mitigation, drop Will-O-Wisp and Rain Dance immediately, and then start cracking off some Thunders until they reset your stats. Once Blaziken's done resetting your stats, go for a couple nasty plots to maximize your special attack power, and then continue landing Thunder after Thunder for massive damage. Stopping occasionally to reset the Rain, because without it, Thunder's not as accurate. But, as we know from experience, sometimes it's hard to get a team together, and sometimes the online randoms can be really bad. As such, here's the way I managed to solo the raid, with Bellibolt. Start off the raid by putting up Reflect to half the incoming damage, and then get in a couple of Chilling Waters to lower Blaziken's damage output. And once that's done, just start hitting Parabolic Charge. And don't stop until Blaziken stops moving. Parabolic Charge is an electric move that heals you for a percentage of the damage it does. And with Bellibolt holding the Metronome item, the more times in a row it uses it, the more damage it does. Add to that Bellibolt's ability, Electromorphosis, which doubles the attack power of its next electric attack whenever it takes a physical hit. And since Blaziken is always going first and always attacking, that's pretty well guaranteed. So Parabolic Charge is going to hit really hard right out of the gate and keep getting stronger and healing you the entire time. And obviously once you Terastallize to Tera Electric, you're going to slice through that thing's shield and just take it down really quickly. Thank you for watching this video, and if you like my Tera Raid content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, it really helps out the channel. And if you ever find yourself needing help with these 7-star raids, just check me out at twitch.tv/IXIstudios, where me and my group take on these raids the Thursday night they come out every time, with streams starting somewhere between 8 and 9 p.m. EST. So, thank you all for watching. Peace.